We are live on You Call That Radio, and now we are going to discuss Vince McMahon, namely the Mr. McMahon documentary on Netflix, which is about the billionaire supervillain Vince McMahon of WWE, WWF fame. And the first thing you notice when you watch this documentary is his face. Look at his face. What has he done to his face? That's the first thing you notice. Now, moving on to the actual documentary, it tells the story of a young man who took over his father's local wrestling company and turned it into an international franchise, leaving a trail of dead wrestlers, lawsuits, and alleged assaults in his wake. And I say alleged because I don't want Vince to sue You Call That Radio, because he would win. I don't want his franchise suing my franchise. 3.6 thousand YouTube subscribers can't be wrong. He always wins. And if he thinks he's not going to win, then he just pays millions of pounds or dollars in out-of-court settlements. In fact, the only case he lost was when the World Wildlife Fund made him change the name of his company from WWF to WWE. I'm sure he shot a lot of pandas that day. He looks like the kind of guy that would uppercut a giraffe. I mean, look at his face. Look at Vince McMahon's face. For wrestling fans, there wasn't much new information. And as someone who's not really watched wrestling since I was about 12, I knew about 95% of it. And that's not to say I'm not a wrestler, because I am. People always ask me, were you not a wrestler? Yes, I was a wrestler. Otherwise, I wouldn't have this. Shout outs to Lucha Libre, big up Galavision. So I'm a wrestler. I'm as much as a wrestler as Donald Trump is. People keep talking about how Donald Trump was in the wrestling. I get booed by everyone in the wrestling. Donald Trump was the good guy. I get booed, which makes me more of a wrestler than Donald Trump. And I'm happy to meet Donald Trump at WrestleMania, whatever number is coming up. And I will knock fuck at you. I will knock fuck at Donald Trump in a wrestling ring. That line I actually just said there, I haven't watched wrestling since I was about 12. That got me booed on stage in front of an ICW crowd. And I was actually trying to give a compliment. As in, I stopped watching wrestling when I was 12, but ICW had a kind of underground ECW vibe that I really liked. They used the Gyro Baby song Overheard in the West End as an entrance theme to one of the wrestlers. And then I was invited to go to the Classic Grand. It was sold out Classic Grand. Probably about, I'm guessing, 700 people there. So we performed the Jeremy Kyle song, which I think was the official theme song of the annual Square Go. And then I said I stopped watching wrestling when I was 12. And before I finished my sentence, everyone started booing me. And I was like, oh, for fuck's sake, man. But then, as a fan of wrestling, the theatre of it all, I realised that I was the bad guy. I was a heel. I was getting booed. So then I tried to jump into the ring. And I think I fell over the rope. It's not as easy as it looks. And then everyone was kind of laughing at me. And I just, we were doing the gyros and song, and I was just going, get a job, get a job, get a job. Get a real job, get a mortgage. Just doing that. And I can remember there was somebody with a screen, one of those like screens that you type it in and you can read the screen. And it said that we sucked. Which is a very Americanised slagging, but it is an Americanised sport. And then I think actually the only time I've ever did a mic drop, which I apologised for, by the way, because but you just like, I think Billy Kirkwood said, make some noise for the gyro babies, and I just dropped the mic and walked off stage, and we get booed, boo, boo. So I had to drop the mic. It was just natural. I didn't mean to do it. It just felt the right thing to do because I was in Ric Flair mode or something. And then also, yes, I also wrestled again. It was a family day for the Clutha, and I don't think it was planned. Someone can correct me in the comments. I don't exactly know how this happened, but the yellow movement, we were all dressed in yellow, and we all attacked Grado. And I don't think Grado knew that was going to happen. I think he was late coming from work. If I remember rightly, correct me if I'm wrong, but the way I remember it is that Dallas, to get Grado back for being late, sent a bunch of the yellow movement in to attack him. And Grado just started clotheslining cunts. And I think he punched me in the rib or something and flung me out the ring. I remember getting actually a sore rib. So, people that say it's fake, come on. It was Sayre. They weren't messing about. But it's not all about me, it's about Vince McMahon. If you're already a wrestling fan, there's nothing new information. If you're not a wrestling fan, it's a really good documentary. Or if you're maybe somebody that just hasn't been keeping up to date over the last 20 years, you maybe watched this when you were 12 and then you stopped watching it, then there's a lot of stuff's happened. Chris Benoit had an incident. It was a Chris Benoit incident. It was Owen. I don't want to give any spoilers. No spoilers here. But Chris Benoit had an incident. It was a Chris Benoit incident. There was an Owen Hart incident. Multiple lawsuits. Multiple allegations. Not many wrestlers make it past 40. They are more rock and roll than rock and roll. The pain they put themselves through as a form of entertainment is crazy. And then you've got the sex, drugs, and alcohol that goes with it. Everyone's on painkillers. Because unlike musicians, they actually have to go to the gym the next day. They usually have to drive for about 7 hours, go to the gym, and then get beaten up again. So everybody's in pain, everyone's on painkillers, probably coke, definitely steroids. And for me, the storylines are funny. I have a great deal of respect for the athletic ability. I don't really watch the wrestling as such, but what I do like is the shoot interviews, which is a genre on YouTube. You can look it up, shoot interviews. And that's when ex-wrestlers bitch about other ex-wrestlers. And it's great because you watch their side of the story and then you watch the other guy talking about the other guy. And you try to figure out who's the lying bastard and who's alright. And as they said multiple times, there is a very thin line between reality and the theatre. The reality gets blurred all the time, which they said multiple times. But check it out, man. If you've never heard any of these stories before, it's a wild and crazy story from the 80s, from the right through. I will knock fuck out of Donald Trump in a wrestling ring. I get booed. He didn't get booed. I get booed, which means I'm better. And also got clotheslined by Grado and hurt my rib. So I'm a wrestler. And I'll knock fuck out of Donald Trump at WrestleMania. Nay bother. Give me a shout. But the most interesting thing about the Netflix documentary for me was that if you are going to watch it with this in mind, in the context of Netflix have bought the rights to Monday Night Raw, which will be streaming every Monday on Netflix from January onwards. So they've spent a lot of money on this. So the documentary is basically an advert for the WWE. But they kind of throw Vince McMahon under the bus a bit. But not that much. Considering all the things he's done, it's not that much. None of the wrestlers really say anything bad about him, really. Because they're scared that Vince McMahon could come back. Because in the world of wrestling, Vince McMahon could come back. Even at this stage, he's cancelled. But in the world of wrestling, he's not really cancelled.